Hello, hello, and good morning, at least in this moment. It is Thursday, December 2nd, 2021. It's almost 10:15 a.m. where I am on the west coast of California. Just realizing it's December 2nd. I had thought the other day when it was November 30th, and I was like, how the fuck did we get all the way through November 2021, like when we haven't even finished March of 2020? Like there's some sort of I don't know. It's not even fluid time. It's like taffy like time that has us here at the end of 2021 when I and many people that I talk to sort of are living in the space of like, but wait, did we actually make it through 2020? So here we are, beginning of December 2021, and we're having cozy sweater weather here in Northern California. Depending on where you are, whether it's morning or afternoon or evening, whether you're in winter or starting summer, I guess, in Southern Hemisphere. So welcome from wherever you are. And I wanted to talk today, this will be a little on the brief side, but I wanted to talk about kind of like I would say a part of this idea of knowing and honoring your why that I think doesn't get talked about as much as some of the other ones. And I believe it was Simon Sinek, I think that's how you say his last name, Simon Sinek, who originally said start with why. Right, he's sort of I'm almost positive. I'm like, oh fuck, I really should have looked this up before I started talking. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong here. And it's really beautiful, right? That's become like a catchphrase. Start with why. What's your deeper why? What's your bigger why for whatever it is that you're doing in your life? It's often around purpose, business, work in the world. Sometimes even looking at a very specific program you want to offer or something you want to bring in to the world, right? Is this idea of like, okay, but what's your why? What's your why for that beyond just I want to do this thing? And I think there's a lot of value in that. And what I really want to speak to here is like, there's a few issues that I think have happened since that became a more household inquiry or catchphrase, if you will. And people pretty much know. I mean, at the time, like I don't even think that's correct grammar, but now if somebody says, what's your why? People know what you mean, right? Like it's become commonplace since whenever he first said this. And in its becoming commonplace, there's a couple things that have gotten linked to that I don't think always serve us. One is that there's an idea that we have a why, like what's your why, not what are your whys, plural for that, but what's your why or what's your deeper why often comes down to the idea that we only have one for each thing that we do. Now, a lot of times when I'm teaching, I will encourage people to focus. And so, right, if we have like 10 billion whys or 10 billion focuses, I'll be like, okay, but what if you only chose one or two, right? Because it actually helps to focus us. But assuming that we only have one for our greater work in the world or for why we do what we do or why we're starting this business or this venture or putting something into the world is usually incorrect. So that's sort of one misnomer that I would say comes from this idea of what's your why, is the idea that it's only one. So I would say we all have many, which leads to the second sort of misunderstanding, I would say, which is that it often gets linked. And I think this is somewhat unconscious, but to that it has to be a big why or a deep why or a profound why. Like, you're going to be a teacher or a coach in a certain way, or it's because I want to help women and sort of a way, or I want to change the world in this way. And again, when Simon Sinek first put this into the world, I think there was a value in taking things that might have existed more on the surface and tethering them to something deeper, our deeper values. oh, this, the reason that it's coming through me in this way, or that I want to put it forward in this way, is because I have a value of, a deeper value of this. Or I might speak to like your deeper devotions, right? Something I'm devoted to in the world is this, and that's why this takes this form. So again, I'm not saying there's no value in that, but the truth is not all of our whys are like big and deep and profound. And often big, deep, and profound also gets conceptualized into abstract. Has to do with helping the world, saving the world, helping a group of people, serving in this, that, or the other way. And it gets kind of abstracted, often to the point where it has almost no meaning. And it's like, yeah, everyone wants to serve, and everyone wants to help, and everyone wants to change the world. And it all starts to sound a little bit like, I don't know, it's not even like word salad, it's like word mashed potatoes or something. Like it all gets kind of gooey and delicious, but none of us really know, yeah, but individual, unique you, where did this come from in you? And so the importance of remembering, like, maybe this is because you were raised by a single mother, or you were on food stamps as a child, or you had a violent event that happened in your life, or you were abused in a certain way, or you found, beauty in a certain way as a child, right? You were drawn to like some particular thing. You experienced discrimination in a certain way, like you had a certain kind of a loss in your life. All of these are sort of pointing to often painful experiences. But again, it is a lot of times some of those painful experiences that really shape, like, this is what matters to me in the world. But I also think about my best friend who loved horses, right? And has certain loves in her life, or like where we get called to things, and actually looking at like, oh, it's because I love this in my life. Or as a child, I think actually one of the things that I think about for myself is the way that I work a lot with range and what I would call wholeness. And when I was a kid, my favorite thing to do was to play dress up. And I know a lot of children play dress up, but like for me, it was pretty constant. We had very, very little money when I was a child. And it wasn't like I didn't have toys, but I had pretty minimal toys. But one of the things that I had was a huge bag of dress ups, and my mom would get things from like free giveaway, piles and Goodwill, and it would just get added to over the years. And I had this big bag of dress ups, and it was just sort of a like somewhat constant thing that I was doing was in some way escaping into these other worlds, like other people I could be, other lives I could be living. And some of it was dressing up in certain ways, and then, creating these whole characters around it. So, is that my deepest why for some of the work I do in the world? No, but it's like, oh, I can see how that informs some of the ways that I look at things. I also escaped, again, I was fairly lonely as a child, and I escaped a lot into books and my imagination in all kinds of ways. And so, the way that I look at things, the way that I think about things, the kind of perspective I'll take is informed by that. And we can understand ourselves better, and we can understand that which we want to put into the world, or how it is that we want to put it into the world, often by not just abstracting out into the highest level, deepest level, biggest, most profound why of how we want to change the world or serve people, yada, 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 but to go like, what is interesting, weird, and unique about me, and especially as a child, what are the ways that I coped? What are the big events that shaped my life? What are the lenses that I looked through? And that those are our whys also. So the same way I said at the beginning, right? Like, we don't just have one why for anything. I mean, we certainly don't have one why in our life, but we don't even like why we do what we do in the world, or why we're creating this, that, or the other program or event or art piece, or how we create art. Doesn't have just one why. It has many, and that it can be important to not just go to the ones we think are like the good ones or the big ones or the deep ones, but like, what are the little ones? What are the ones that seem a little bit selfish? Like, I want this in the world because I wanted this. This is how I wanted the world to be when I was a kid. This is what would have helped me to feel safe, or more belonging, or who knows, for you uniquely. But to look at like, what are your unique, specific, selfish, and weird little whys? And that not only do I think that again, it gives us a better perspective just on ourselves and is more honest in terms of like, oh, this is why I'm doing this in the world, but it can also actually help us speak better, like, to the world that might want what we want. We often want to hide those things, and we want to go like, no, no, I have this big altruistic why for why I do things, rather than actually I have this little weird selfish why. And there are absolutely going to be people who are like, me too. And that wouldn't maybe be spoken to in quite the same way by that, big abstract altruistic why, that basically I could say, you could say, like, you could get 100 people in a room and they'd all be like, yeah, I feel basically the same way. That's basically my why as well. But they didn't have the weird, unique, interesting pieces of their life. And it's not all just young childhood, but in especially our early years, I would say, like, up into our 20s, and certainly in our 30s matters as well. But these are the things that really shape us, right? Like, oh yeah, and I had this experience and this hurt me, or I thought this is the part of me that I've been trying to hide because it just seemed so weird. I was trying to be more normal in these ways, or more unique in these ways, or more like, what are these pieces? And then the last thing I want to say that kind of goes along with these is just the reminder that it is okay for money to be a why. So there's a bit of like I would almost call it a pendulum swing, and it may be true that there was a sort of, and it might be like a predecessor time to my entering the personal growth world, if you will, in kind of the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, but when maybe money was more on the surface and talked about. And then there's been this like swing that where we're always trying to go underneath it. It's like, well, it's not really about the money. It's about what the money can create, or it's about I don't know, this, that, or the other, that there's always something. It's like, I would do this even if I never made money from it. And that is all fine and good. And I still feel that way about many things. And I have absolutely felt that way about many things. I mean, there have been many times when I looked at my life and I was like, if I never had to earn money again in my entire life, just the question, like, what would I do differently? And a lot of times I'm like, pretty much nothing. I would just stress a little less. But I also want to say, like, that is also a good enough reason to want to do something. Oh, I would like to feel less stressed about this. I would like my family to feel less stressed about this. And so just not to go so all or nothing, like it's all about the money or it's not about the money at all. And just be like, yeah, it is okay for money to also be a why, and for that to be included in some of these, weird, selfish, unique, quirky little whys that we have. So, especially, I mean, I really should have said this at the beginning, but I was thinking about these things and I really wanted to kind of put this out, especially in this time where we're coming to the completion of a year as it is largely culturally held in the world today, and entering into this new year again as it's held in the Gregorian calendar. I think it holds enough weight for most of us that even if we count sort of differently, maybe we count around our birthday, or we count the Jewish New Year, or we count these other pieces, that this still holds like a weight, or it has a momentum to it in the world. And we start thinking about, what do I want to let go of? What do I want to celebrate from the last year? What am I creating in the next year? And why? Like, what are my deeper values? Is including these in that as well. So I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. Thank you for joining me for this little bit of time. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Ciao.